Good morning, guys. Let's see if it'll work this time. So, let's get this started. So, I'm Marshall Burtcher, and welcome to today's training. If you're new to me, I help codependents achieve happiness. After their codependency, I help them rediscover who they are, learn how to know, love, and live who they are, and also heal from the emotional trauma of narcissistic abuse through the Rapid Heal system, which is where we address the deep shame, fear, guilt, and fatigue that we experience with narcissistic abuse, and we address specifically the love addiction in the Addiction to Connection course. And that is what we're talking about today. Talking about a very specific cycle called the E.D.D cycle, or euphoria, distress, despair cycle. This is the internal experience that individuals have when they're going through what's called the SAD cycle, which stands for seduction, abuse, and discard. So before going any deeper, I need to share this out to the community. Now, the community is my safe haven and your safe haven from narcissists, from gaslighters, from deniers of your reality, okay? And you can join there. It's free. We got your back. There's over 1,600 members. We're all working together to break free of codependency and break into our confidence and happiness. The link is above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, thank you for subscribing. Hit that subscribe button, hit that bell. And guys, as I go through this and as we talk here today, because I like a discussion, feel free to comment. Let me know what you're getting out of these and what you would like to learn more about and how I can support you in your journey back to your happiness, back to you. Okay? So let's jump in here. It looks like this is actually working this time. Hi, Michelle. It's nice to see you. Okay, so today we're talking about the distress phase. I got the graphics working right. Because in last training we talked about, oh, my hand goes into oblivion, the euphoria phase. And so that's in the previous training. You can check that out on YouTube or on my Facebook channel or on my website at www.freetheself.com. But today we're talking about distress. Now, distress is what we start to experience when the abuser, the narcissistic person that we're in this sad cycle of seduction, abuse, and discard with, moves into the abuse phase. Because we're wondering what on earth is going on. Because we've been in this euphoria phase with their seduction. We're like, wow, they love us, they see us, they care about us. We're finally being seen and loved for who we are. We're finally being valued. I'm finally lovable. I'm finally worthy. That kind of thing is going on. And then it suddenly starts to change. Things they used to like and love about us, according to what they've said, start to become points of complaint and criticism. They start to pull away and try to control us. They start to nag. They can become incredibly violent as well, especially emotionally. I've got some notes here. It helps me keep track on this. Where's my notes? Because these are big concepts and gives me a framework to share these things with for you guys. So, first, sometimes it starts slow, sometimes it's right there and it's rapid, sometimes it's sudden and then it stops, sometimes it's persistent. So the distress phase can happen really quick, or it can happen very slowly, and it can last a long time or it can last for a moment. And this is where the abusive person, the toxic person we're in a relationship with, is beginning to criticize us, criticize who we are, criticize what we like, what we feel, criticize what we think, complain about our boundaries, complain about what we want, complain about our feelings, complain about what we need. They attack our bids for connection and for understanding and for communication. And they start gaslighting us. They start telling us we're too much, we're too little, we're too sensitive. Why can't you just be happy with what you get? Things like that. And this causes an enormous amount of confusion within us because they liked this yesterday. They were so loving and kind last week. What's going on? What did I do? And that's usually the question we go to, is what did I do, or what am I doing that's contributing to this? This is not necessarily a wrong question or wrong point of view. because empathetic people consider that they may have done something that could have affected the other individual, right? So it makes sense to ask that question. But we also have to put this in the proper context. This is where codependents get, this is where the big mistakes happen with how we think when we're coming from codependency, because codependency assumes that they're right and we're wrong about what they're saying. Codependents tend to ignore the context about what's going on because they're not trained to be aware of what is happening. Okay. They also, from codependency, we typically don't understand what abusive, toxic, and unhealthy behavior is versus a complaint, versus someone in pain. Okay. And this is important because if we don't know those differences, we're going to confuse them and we're going to make decisions that are going to end up harming us more. So abusive behavior is behavior that criticizes and diminishes our character, violates our boundaries, and denies, ignores, and dismisses our emotions, our wants, and our needs, and our person. They dehumanize us. And they act in entitled, grandiose ways where they feel they deserve something from us, they can take it from us, and we feel a lot of pain, a lot of confusion, shame, and guilt in abuse. Very different than someone having a complaint. A complaint would come across as, hey, I'm not happy about what's going on here. We need to talk about it. And healthy people want to talk about it because the goal is understanding and cooperation rather than control and subjugation, which is what abusive people want. So we naturally ask the question, what am I doing wrong? And then we start to try to make, it's your fault I cheated, exactly. They blame you for their behavior. They make you the perpetrator, make them the victim. There's an acronym for it called DARVO, Deny, Attack, Reverse, Victim, and Offender. And that is what that phrase is exactly is doing. So what happens here in us is we ask this question and we try to start fixing things. We start to try changing our behavior, changing what we like, what we don't like, changing how we share and how we communicate, what words we use and what we don't. We start walking on eggshells. And this is because we're moving into a hyper-awareness or hyper-vigilant state of awareness with this person. And this is a serious red flag. We need to deeply understand this, guys. What's healthy, safe people aren't going to escalate us into that state. We're not going to escalate into that state with them because they're not going to put us in that kind of position. Now, if we've been through trauma and abuse, we may actually go into a hypervigilant state because of our past trauma with a healthy person. It's understandable. So you got to know how to discern the difference, and that's where context comes in. Are they actually acting in a healthy way and respecting my boundaries? Are they speaking to me in loving and kind and honest, direct, clear, and simple ways? Or are we dealing with someone who's making character attacks and putting me down, blaming me for their behavior, victimizing themselves with their own choices and actions? Gaslighting us, denying us, lacking empathy, things like that. Very, very important. Okay. Now, in this hypervigilant state, our brain's actually going into a very specific threat response called freeze and fawn. Because we don't know if we can leave. We don't know if we can fight and get what we want. Sometimes we fight. That means we're advocating for our boundary. We're trying to get them to change, but they're not doing anything. So we move back into a fawn state. It's where we become compliant and cooperative and docile. But a lot of times, codependents move into a freeze state where they just become very small and frozen and paralyzed and panicked. And they tend to collapse into themselves. And then they move into a fawn state, hoping that their fawning, their people-pleasing, the accommodating, the fixing, will get that person to change their behavior. Because codependency is built on the fantasy that if I change how I behave, you'll change how you behave. And that's not really true. People behave completely independent of you all the time, and they always have, they always will. And so you also behave independent of them because you're coming from your own programming, your own reference points, your own experience that's informing you of how to behave and what to feel. So this hypervigilant state puts us into this freeze-fawn loop where our brain gets locked into a cycle of trying to fix the problem, trying to fix ourselves, trying to fix them, trying to fix our feelings, trying to become perfect. This is the hallmark of the distress phase, as we try to become ideal to them, and this ends up in discarding ourselves. We void ourselves of our feelings, our wants, our needs, our boundaries, because we want to get back to that euphoric seduction phase. We want to get back to what it feels like to be loved and wanted. And we truly think that we're causing their behavior, that we're the powerful actor in their world that's making them do this, when in reality it's them doing this from their own programming. We also think that we deserve this at some level. I know that may be hard to hear, but it translates this way: I'm not worth being loved, so I have to earn love. And to earn love, maybe I have to tolerate this behavior. Maybe I deserve this because I did X wrong or I did Y wrong. And this is a hallmark of the distress phase. Guys, we never earn behavior, especially abusive behavior. Period. We didn't earn the abuse. We didn't earn the neglect. There was nothing we could have done that would have prevented the abuse or the neglect, because the abuse and neglect is a product of their programming. It's wholly in their universe. If you look at people as like universes that exist in their own little bubbles, and then we collide or bump into each other or meet each other and we have an exchange, right? Their universe, their yard, this is how they behave there. This has nothing to do with your value. But because we think we're the problem, we think it does have to do with their value. We think that their abuse and their judgments define our worth, because we have this thing called external orientation, where we regulate our sense of self through other people's eyes, through their approval and rejection specifically. And this external orientation also attempts to convince us that we are the problem, so that we have to fix it. This is why we think we deserve some of the things we've gotten, when in reality, we absolutely and fundamentally don't. We are innocent in this. So the distress phase is all about, well, for you, it's about trying to control and fix the situation. For the narcissistic abuser, it's about getting more control over you. It's about asserting more power and control over you as supply, and taking more from you and seeing how far they can push the limit before you will threaten and withdraw from them. Okay? They want to see what you'll take, because then it'll tell them how far they can go. Now, they're always going to be pushing that limit, because they do not fundamentally care about how you feel or for your well-being. The priority of an abusive narcissistic person is to get supply from you, is to get from you what they want to feel. And they're going to feel what they want to feel based on how you react to them. So the more distressed they can implement, the more supply or reaction they get from you. That's the goal here. So some escalation or some signals that you're in the distress phase that you can also pay attention for. Okay, guys? Because this only happens in relationships that are going through the seduction, abuse, discard cycle. Relationships that go through the healthy cycle of flirtation and exploration and bonding and into commitment and development don't go through this. They go through a very beautiful cycle of growth. So the distress phase is specifically marked by escalation of anxiety. You're starting to get scared of this person. You're starting to feel like you're walking on eggshells. You're wondering when the next shoe's going to drop. What's going to happen next with them? It feels really draining and really dramatic. Guys, how it feels really matters, because what you feel is telling you about the experience you're going through. It is not defining who you are. Because of that external orientation and this idea that we're flawed, thus we deserve what we get, and this idea that because we're flawed, our feelings are part of the problems, we have to fix them. We think that our feelings are a result of a flaw in who we are. They are actually your big signal to tell you that, hey, what you're going through sucks. Emotions are like the soundtrack to your experience. Okay? They're telling the story about what you've been through. You want to be really, really conscious of that. So you've got escalation of anxiety, you've got tension in the body, you've got obsessive thoughts about how to fix things. You're doing lots of research and trying to figure out what's going on so you can do things better. You feel like there's a growing sense of depression and kind of despair, helplessness coming in. Attempts to be perfect and change yourself, but it's not really working. Self-blame and the assumption you're the cause of their behaviors. It's another primary signal of this phase. Then you're also absorbing their feelings as judgment about your own worth as a person. And then you have, again, the external orientation. The body goes into that freeze-fawn loop. You're going to cry a lot. You're going to be really confused. You're going to be really, really gutted. You're going to be very scared that you're going to lose this person that you thought finally that this was the person that you've been looking for your entire life. Someone finally loves me and sees me, and you're going to have to give that up. That's a terrifying thing right there. And then fundamentally, you start to have this growing sense of helplessness and powerlessness because your attempts to change things don't work. Okay? So you begin to think that really there must be something wrong with you because you should be able to tolerate their behavior. You should be able to be grateful for what you get because you're starting to buy into their narrative. You're starting to trust them over your own awareness, your own instincts, your own emotional experience, right? So the distress phase is also one of the most important phases of your self-awareness because this is the phase where all the red flags are just exploding everywhere. This is where you're going to learn the most about choosing healthy and unhealthy people because you're going to see what you bypassed, what you weren't aware of. You're going to see what you tolerated. You're going to see what is healthy and what is not, and you're going to be able to confront that in a way that's going to build confidence that you can choose healthy people. Because now you're going to break free of the fantasy that, this is just because of their trauma or they had a hard past or blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. Because guess what? You have trauma, and are you out there abusing people? No. Now, abuse is a result of entitlement thinking. They think they have a right to make people hurt because they hurt. That's where abuse comes from. So it's a grandiose entitlement. It's a lack of empathy. They didn't use their pain to build understanding of other people's pain. They use their pain as a justification to make you hurt so they can feel better. That's what's going on. And so that's the big difference here. It's not a trauma issue. It's an entitlement issue. It's a power issue when it comes to abusers. So for you to break free of this cycle, the sad cycle and the E.D.D cycle, especially with love addiction, we have to confront reality. And the distress phase is where reality is. And this is why. Because love becomes poisoned by abuse, which means the abuse nullifies the love. It makes it unsafe to receive love from that particular person. Because loving, healthy people do not abuse other people. It's not even in their thinking. Because again, they don't think they are entitled. They find relationship to be a privilege. They find relationship to be a gift. And fundamentally, they care about how you feel and who you are. Whereas abusers tend to care about what they can get from you. This is why the abuse is reality, not the euphoria. Okay? Abuse defines reality. It's like the concrete of it. So if there's abuse in the relationship you're in, you're seeing the truth come out. And I encourage you and challenge you to confront that and accept that so that you can become more sober and more aware about what's going on for you. This is going to keep you safe. It's going to keep you healthy. It's going to help you avoid these kind of people in the future, and it's going to help you choose people who are truly loving and kind. So the distress phase is a gold mine of self-awareness to going like, this person doesn't fit what I want or need in my life. It's time to end this. Because healthy relationships aren't going to escalate you. They're going to bring calmness to you. They're going to bring kindness into your world. They're going to add to your well-being rather than take from you. Okay? So today I want you to take some time and evaluate the level of distress you feel in your relationships. See if there's abuse going on. Confront this. Let's see what's going on there. Okay? Now, I've opened my doors for the love addiction or the addiction to connection training that happens June 28th, not July 28th, June 28th. And this is an 8-week live course where I'm going to teach you how to heal from the trauma bond, how to reconnect with yourself and fill the emptiness that comes in by exiting these toxic relationships so you never have to go through it again. And I'm going to teach you how to build safe bonded relationships, both within yourself and with others, so you no longer are addicted to the narcissist and you no longer are stuck in a trauma bond. So break you free with that using my 4-step connection practice. Okay? So we start June 28th. The link to sign up is below on as above on Facebook, below on YouTube. I've got 40 seats. I've made 40 seats available. 38 are taken, and I've got 3 other people interested right now. So those seats are going to move pretty quick. So I want you to jump in on that, and so that you can be free of your love addiction, and that fundamentally sets you up to know, love, and live who you are. So it's a really big, powerful deal right there. So I appreciate you guys. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping, and I will see you in our next training. Keep safe out there. Stand with our brothers and the people of color and those minorities that are oppressed. Let's be on their side. Let's amplify their voices and give them the support they need by helping hold people in authority accountable to what's going on. Okay? Thank you guys. Appreciate you. See you in our next training.